How's it going, man?
It's going well.
All right. What we have in front of us is, as you know, the new, what is it, 2020?
2020, I think?
No, wait.
No, it's 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Mazda3. So
Yes.
This is going to be their compact sedan.
Right.
Replacing the old Mazda3. And what we're going to talk about today is some of the new style and the design that goes into this vehicle, because this evolution of their Kodo soul of motion design language is kind of one of the big things that's going on with this car, at least until the new engines show up next year.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on with the surfacing of the vehicle.
Yeah. So, like, they put a lot of energy into this car as far as hand sculpting it when they were sort of building it. And the thing that sort of stands out with this and the hatchback, which we'll get to in a second, is it's almost devoid of character lines on the side panel. So, like, usually you have like a really hard crease or some sort of angularity that sort of defines the side of the vehicle. But then when you get to the side of this car, you'll see that it's all smooth. You get what starts like the hint of a character line here, but then it just fades out, and you're just sort of left with kind of a slab-sided design.
More like character sculpting.
Yeah.
You know? But I like the way the light plays off of the vehicle.
That's the weird thing about this car, is every time I look at it, I have a different opinion about it, because without those hard character lines, you're pretty much dependent on the way the light hits the car to give it any sort of character, to define the shoulder of the vehicle and stuff like that. So if you catch it in weird light, if you take a picture from the wrong angle, it looks kind of like like someone hit it, and then it's dented in. But then you come around to this angle, and we've got this really soft light coming down from the top, and you can really see what they were doing here. They're drawing a lot of that inspiration from those RX Vision concepts that we saw in Japan.
And you still get a bit of a shoulder right here too, and then the rear tail light here kind of completes that line. So for that reason, that's why I like the sedan more than the hatchback, but you're the other way around.
Right. I prefer the hatchback more. I've been spending the last 2 days just hating on this car, going, they've just sort of dumbed down the Mazda3, and I mean, the sedan was never really my favorite anyway, but it just kind of looked real blobby in the pictures, and when they unveiled it on the stage, it looked really blobby there. But I can't wait to see this out on the road. That's going to be the thing that really defines it.
That will be interesting, but I think what's really cool about what Mazda's been doing with their design over the past couple of years is that they've been kind of like a Japanese automaker adopting a lot of Italian design.
Okay.
And so I see that with this, and to me it looks like a smaller version of a Giulia, actually.
I get a lot of Alfa Romeo from this and from the hatchback, and so I can definitely see what you're doing there. So there's a lot of sort of like soft sculpting here, but there is some structure to the vehicle, particularly over at the front and at the rear, where the tail lights really sort of add some sort of shape to the rear, and up front they've sort of taken that sort of like fascia that they've always had and sort of simplified it. You're seeing some things that we're seeing on their SUVs and on the larger sedans, where the headlights and the grille sort of form one element, as opposed to the old one, which kind of pinched off here.
Yes.
So you had discrete headlights.
I think for both vehicles, the front end is probably the most appealing feature.
Yes, definitely, because this is where all of the shape is, where all of the energy is, and it just sort of flows through the car. I also like that they've really simplified the headlight design. I mean, you've still got the halo DRLs there, but it looks like they've taken a lot of the sort of superfluous stuff that you normally see in there, that sort of jewelry of a headlight, and just sort of gave us something simple without giving us something that looks sort of cheap or watered down.
And undeniably distinctive. I mean,
and one of the other things that I really love, because Mazda's been pushing this sort of like Mazda premium thing, is what's going on in the cabin. You open the door here, and you can see that they've put a lot of energy into the materials that go into the cabin. So we've got this really nice leather on this one. We've got a leather dashboard that's also in white, and it's just more simplified than before. There's not a whole lot of buttons on the dashboard. The climate control buttons that are there are really integrated into this sort of like chrome beam that sort of goes and underpins the dashboard there. And I'm really interested in that screen at the top. It's an 8.8-inch screen, but it looks like a really wide and aspect ratio.
Yes.
And so, Mazda's regular screens sort of have that 4:3 aspect ratio, and I think that this will be an interesting sort of evolution of what's going on with their tech.
Absolutely. I think it's harder to argue against the interior design. It's more universally appealing than exteriors that may not be for everybody.
Right. So this is the sedan. This is the one that you like the best. Let's take a look at the car that I personally prefer. Let's walk over to the hatchback. Okay. So what we have here is the hatchback, and the first thing that you've got to talk about is the back, right?
There's a lot going on
There's
here.
a lot of sheet metal back here, and it sort of you know, the front end design is very similar to that of the sedan, so that they're very recognizable as both being Mazda 3s. But everything from here on back is totally different. There's less of a shoulder going on right here. So where the sedan had a really sort of a crease that sort of blended out here, it's a little less defined, and so it's a little bit more dependent on that sort of smooth sculpting that's happening in here. And I think that it works better on this car mostly because of this really weird large area here. It gives the car a lot of sort of like weight on the back. It makes it look rear wheel drive even though it's front wheel drive, and look at that flow through there.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying, but I don't understand why you like it, because from up to about here, this car is designed beautifully.
Yeah.
But I could be a stuntman jumping off a 10-story building, and this is enough space for me to land safely. so it's just, it really just interrupts the overall feel of the vehicle, and also the line of the car is just so humpy.
Yeah?
I can't get behind that, and I don't want to be behind it.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing that I really like about this is that I feel like it's a better realization of that sort of idea of we're going to use smooth sculpting.
Yeah.
Granted, yes. You come over here and you see it from like this rear quarter angle as it comes around. Sometimes you might catch it at an awkward angle, but I think for the most part, it really works well for it. And I am still seeing a lot of that Italian inspiration that we talked about here.
I am, but I'm seeing it less chiseled. The previous generation Mazda 3 was a beautiful car from behind. I can't say the same for this, unfortunately, and I really wanted to. I was really having high hopes for it. The teaser images kind of had me excited, but it's just so bulbous back here.
Yeah. Again, it's that whole thing where we're entering an odd era in Mazda design where it's so dependent on the light.
Yeah,
like this
indeed.
car, I think, will look really good when it's moving.
I don't think there's any denying that Soul Red is probably the best color.
I don't know
in
if
production.
it will be, though, because Mazda did invent that new polymetric gray
cool.
that's not here, but it looked really good. It's a really good second contender for my favorite color in Mazda's palette. But, you know, it's good thing that they're both here. They're very different cars. You know, as opposed to previous generations where it sort of feels like they designed one and then sort of lopped off some to make the sedan, or they designed the sedan and they added a little bit to make the hatchback. It seems like they've taken a lot of time and put a lot of energy into making these cars feel like different vehicles.
Definitely
even though they
two
are
different
both Mazda
characters.
3s. Right.
Yeah.
So, have I been able to convince you about the hatchback at all? Because I feel like you have brought me around on the sedan, so I'm going to give you a point.
Okay, I'm glad of that, but it's just, I understand that you like the way everything flows, and design, like textbook design-wise, it follows those principles, if you will. But yeah, I just don't get the appeal that you see in it, unfortunately. I wish I did.
We'll agree to disagree. All right, man. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me about these cars. I've been really excited about them leading up to the unveiling, and it's really good to sort of spend some time and really take in the design.
There's a lot to talk about here.
All right, so you can check out the rest of our coverage of the 2018 LA Auto Show over on theroadshow.com, where there are even more cool unveils like this.